In the quiet countryside of Windsor, where ancient oak trees have stood witness to centuries of royal history, something unprecedented was happening. Behind the majestic walls of Adelaide Cottage, Prince William and Princess Catherine were making a decision that would forever change how the British royal family approaches security in the modern world. The year 2024 had brought new threats that even the most experienced royal protection officers had never encountered. Digital stalkers could track royal movements through satellite imagery. Social media had made every public appearance a potential security risk, and international tensions meant that the future King and Queen of England needed protection unlike anything previous generations had required. What the public didn't know was that William and Kate had been secretly working with military strategists, technology experts, and landscape architects for months, planning something extraordinary. They were about to transform 150 acres of pristine English countryside into one of the most sophisticated private security zones in the world, all while maintaining the appearance of a normal family home. This is the true story of how modern royalty adapts to modern threats, told through the eyes of those who lived it, planned it, and executed one of the most ambitious security operations in recent royal history. The morning of March 15th, 2024, started like any other at Adelaide Cottage. Princess Catherine was helping Prince George with his mathematics homework, while Princess Charlotte practiced piano scales in the next room. Prince Louis, their youngest, was building an elaborate castle with wooden blocks on the living room carpet. Prince William had just returned from an early morning run through Windsor Great Park, his protection officers maintaining their discreet distance, as always. But at exactly 9:47 a.m., everything changed. Detective Chief Inspector Sarah Mitchell, head of Royal Protection Services, arrived at Adelaide Cottage with an expression that immediately caught William's attention. She carried a thick manila folder marked with red security classifications, and her usually calm demeanor showed cracks of genuine concern. Catherine noticed the tension immediately and quietly guided the children toward the kitchen for their mid-morning snack. "Your Royal Highness," Mitchell began, settling into the cottage's modest sitting room, "we've intercepted communications that require immediate attention." What followed was a briefing that would keep William awake for weeks. Intelligence services had discovered a sophisticated network of individuals who had been studying royal family movements for months. Using publicly available satellite imagery, social media posts from royal events, and even analysis of background details in official photographs, this group had created detailed maps of royal residences and daily routines. The most disturbing discovery was a series of encrypted messages discussing opportunities during the children's school runs and family walks in Windsor Great Park. While no specific threats had been made, the level of surveillance detail was unprecedented. They knew which windows faced George's bedroom, the exact timing of Catherine's morning garden walks, and even which vehicles the family used for private outings. William listened to the briefing with growing alarm. As a former search and rescue pilot, he understood risk assessment better than most royals. This wasn't the usual collection of eccentric letter writers or distant protesters that royal security typically handled. This was systematic, organized, and potentially dangerous surveillance. "What are our options?" William asked, his mind already calculating the implications for his family's daily life. Mitchell spread several documents across the coffee table. "We can increase visible security presence, restrict movements, or—" She paused. "We can consider a more comprehensive approach." The comprehensive approach, as it turned out, had been under development by Royal Security Services for over a year. Codenamed Operation Sanctuary, it involved creating a secure perimeter zone around royal residences that would be virtually undetectable to casual observers, but would provide unprecedented protection against modern surveillance and infiltration methods. Catherine rejoined the conversation after ensuring the children were occupied with their nanny. Her background in art history had given her an appreciation for how historical residences had been fortified, and she immediately understood the implications of what Mitchell was proposing. "This would essentially turn our home into a fortress," Catherine observed, "but one that doesn't look like a fortress. Exactly, Mitchell confirmed. The plan involved acquiring additional land around Adelaide Cottage, installing cutting-edge security technology disguised as environmental features, and creating multiple layers of protection that would appear to visitors as natural landscaping and ordinary countryside maintenance. The financial implications were staggering. Initial estimates suggested costs exceeding £15 million, not including ongoing operational expenses. But as William and Catherine learned more about the sophistication of modern threats, the investment began to seem not just reasonable, but essential. The couple spent the following week in intense discussions with security experts, government officials, and trusted advisors. They visited other high-security residences around the world, studying how other prominent families had balanced safety with normal life. They consulted with child psychologists about the potential impact on George, Charlotte, and Louis. Most importantly, they considered the precedent this would set for the future of royal security. If they proceeded with Operation Sanctuary, it would fundamentally change how the royal family lived, worked, and interacted with the public. The decision point came during a family dinner on March 22nd. The children had gone to bed, and William and Catherine sat in their kitchen, surrounded by security reports and architectural plans. Outside, they could hear the distant sounds of evening traffic on the nearby A308, a reminder of how exposed their current situation really was. "If we don't do this," William said quietly, "we'll always be looking over our shoulders. But if we do this, we change everything about how our children grow up." Catherine reached across the table and took his hand. "We change everything," she agreed, "but we keep them safe." The next morning, William called Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell with their decision. Operation Sanctuary was approved to proceed immediately. Within hours, a small army of specialists began arriving in Windsor. Landscape architects who specialized in security applications, technology experts with experience in diplomatic protection, and former military personnel trained in perimeter defense all descended on the area around Adelaide Cottage. The first challenge was acquiring the necessary land. The Crown Estate owned much of the surrounding area, but several private parcels would need to be purchased or leased. Negotiations had to be conducted with absolute secrecy, using intermediary companies and legal structures that would prevent anyone from connecting the purchases to royal security upgrades. Local residents began noticing increased activity around Adelaide Cottage, but official explanations mentioned routine maintenance of Crown Estate properties and environmental conservation projects. Few suspected that they were witnessing the beginning of one of the most sophisticated private security installations in British history. The technical aspects of Operation Sanctuary were mind-boggling. Motion sensors would be disguised as tree branches. Underground communication cables would be installed beneath what appeared to be natural walking paths, and thermal imaging systems would be concealed within decorative garden structures. But perhaps the most innovative aspect was the integration of traditional British countryside aesthetics with cutting-edge security technology. Every element had to serve dual purposes: functional protection and visual harmony with a Windsor landscape that had remained largely unchanged for centuries. As the first week of Operation Sanctuary concluded, William and Catherine began to understand that they weren't just improving their family security. They were pioneering a new model for how prominent families could protect themselves in an age of digital surveillance and global connectivity, all while maintaining the appearance of normal, approachable family life. The real work, however, was just beginning. Converting 150 acres of English countryside into a state-of-the-art security zone while keeping 3 young children happy and unaware of the massive operation happening around their home would require extraordinary coordination, creativity, and patience. Every morning brought new challenges, unexpected discoveries, and complex decisions that would shape not just their family's immediate safety, but the future of royal security for generations to come. As William looked out at the peaceful Windsor countryside each evening, he knew that nothing would ever be quite the same again. The transformation had begun, and there would be no turning back. The second phase of Operation Sanctuary began on a foggy Monday morning in early April 2024. Catherine was having her morning tea when she noticed something unusual through the kitchen window. What appeared to be a small convoy of maintenance vehicles was making its way along the private road toward their cottage, but these weren't ordinary groundskeeping trucks. The vehicles carried equipment she didn't recognize, and the workers who emerged wore civilian clothes but moved with the precise coordination of military personnel. Within an hour, the area around Adelaide Cottage had been transformed into what looked like a sophisticated archaeological excavation site. Project Director James Harrison, a former Royal Engineers officer who had spent 15 years designing security installations in diplomatic compounds around the world, had arrived to personally oversee the most complex phase of the operation. His team included specialists in underground construction, electronic surveillance, landscape architecture, and environmental engineering. The challenge, Harrison explained to William during their first site meeting, is making everything invisible while making it impenetrable. The scope of work was staggering. Underground tunnels would connect Adelaide Cottage to secure observation posts positioned throughout the 150-acre perimeter. A network of fiber optic cables would carry real-time surveillance data to a command center hidden beneath what would appear to be an ordinary garden shed. Motion detection systems would be integrated into hedgerows that were being specially cultivated to grow over sensors and cameras. Catherine found herself fascinated by the technical ingenuity required for each element. The underground command center, for example, was being excavated and constructed using a technique borrowed from subway construction that would leave no visible trace above ground. The excavated earth was being redistributed to create natural-looking hills and depressions that would actually serve as strategic observation points. The children, meanwhile, were delighted by all the activity. Prince George, with his keen interest in engineering, peppered the workers with questions about their equipment. Princess Charlotte collected interesting rocks and artifacts uncovered during the excavation work. Prince Louis simply enjoyed watching the big machines and impressive collection of tools. "Daddy, why are there so many people fixing our garden?" Charlotte asked one evening during dinner. William had prepared for this question. "They're making our homes safer and more beautiful," he explained truthfully, if incompletely, like how we wear seatbelts in the car. The workers had been carefully selected not just for their technical expertise, but for their discretion and security clearances. Each team member had undergone extensive background checks and signed comprehensive non-disclosure agreements. Many had previous experience with high-security installations for government facilities or corporate headquarters. The most delicate aspect of the operation was maintaining the appearance of normal family life while construction proceeded around them. William still needed to fulfill his royal duties. Catherine had her own schedule of engagements, and the children required consistency in their routines. School runs, playdates, and family activities all had to continue without interruption. This required extraordinary coordination between the construction teams and royal protection officers. Work schedules were arranged around family movements. Noisy equipment operated only during specific hours, and certain areas were completely off-limits during children's outdoor playtime. The logistics resembled those of a major military operation compressed into a domestic setting. Harrison's team worked in carefully coordinated phases. Underground infrastructure was installed first, followed by above-ground elements designed to look like landscape improvements. The final phase would integrate technology systems that would remain completely invisible to casual observers. The underground command center was perhaps the most impressive element of the entire project. Located beneath what would become an expanded garden area, the facility included multiple workstations with access to feeds from over 200 surveillance points throughout the property. Backup power systems, communication equipment, and emergency supplies were all concealed within what appeared from above to be an unremarkable garden storage area. Catherine became particularly involved in designing the landscape elements that would conceal security features. Her background in art history provided valuable insight into how historic estates had balanced aesthetic beauty with defensive requirements. She studied examples from medieval castle gardens, Renaissance villa security features, and modern embassy compounds. The best security, she observed to Harrison during one planning session, is security that doesn't look like security. This philosophy guided every design decision. Perimeter fencing was disguised as decorative estate boundary markers. Security lighting was integrated into pathway illumination that appeared designed for evening garden strolls. Vehicle barriers were concealed within landscape features that looked like natural terrain variations. The technology integration required specialists who understood both advanced surveillance systems and historic estate maintenance. Cameras were housed within structures that appeared to be traditional English garden features: dovecots, sundials, and decorative weather vanes. Motion sensors were embedded in fence posts that looked identical to those used throughout Windsor Great Park. Communication systems presented particular challenges. The installation required connecting Adelaide Cottage to regional security networks while maintaining complete signal security. This involved running shielded cables through underground conduits that followed existing utility lines and property boundaries. Local residents began noticing the increased activity, but official explanations focused on environmental improvements and heritage conservation work. Cover stories mentioned wetland restoration, historic garden rehabilitation, and wildlife habitat enhancement. All of these projects were actually happening alongside the security installations, making the explanations technically accurate. The Crown Estate's involvement provided additional legitimacy for the extensive work. Many of the visible improvements were genuinely beneficial for the local environment and consistent with ongoing conservation efforts throughout Windsor Great Park. Native plant species were being restored, drainage systems improved, and historic boundaries clarified and maintained. Weather became a significant factor during the construction phase. The spring of 2024 brought unusually heavy rainfall, which complicated excavation work and delayed several critical installations. However, the weather also provided additional cover for the operation, as many residents stayed indoors and paid less attention to outdoor activities. William found himself learning details about security technology that he had never imagined existed. Thermal imaging systems that could distinguish between humans and wildlife, acoustic sensors that could identify specific types of vehicles, and communication systems that could function even if all commercial networks failed. The sophistication was both impressive and slightly overwhelming. The psychological aspects of living through such an extensive security upgrade were more challenging than either William or Catherine had anticipated. Their home was simultaneously becoming safer and less private, more secure, but also more complex. Every design decision had to balance family comfort with security requirements. Evening briefings with Harrison became a regular part of their routine. Progress reports, weather updates, technical explanations, and problem-solving sessions stretched long into many nights. Catherine often joined these discussions after helping the children with homework and bedtime routines. The financial aspects of the operation were managed through a complex structure involving the Crown Estate, government security budgets, and private royal funds. Cost overruns were frequent, particularly when unexpected challenges arose during underground construction or when additional security features were deemed necessary based on evolving threat assessments. By the end of April, the underground infrastructure was substantially complete. The command center was operational, communication systems were tested and functioning, and the foundation for above-ground security features had been established. But the most visible and challenging phase of work was still ahead. As William and Catherine reviewed progress reports one evening, they realized they had crossed a point of no return. Their family home was being transformed into something unprecedented in royal history. A residence that would provide military-grade security while maintaining the appearance and atmosphere of a traditional English country cottage. The next phase would test whether such an ambitious goal was actually achievable. May 2024 brought the most visible phase of Operation Sanctuary, and with it, Catherine's greatest test of creativity and patience. The challenge was transforming 150 acres of countryside into a security fortress that would appear to casual observers as nothing more than beautiful, well-maintained English gardens, and natural landscape. Landscape architect Emma Thornfield, who had previously designed security installations disguised as public parks for government facilities, arrived with a team of specialists who understood both horticulture and surveillance technology. Their job was to create what they privately called defensive beauty, landscape features that serve protective functions while maintaining aesthetic excellence. Catherine worked closely with Thornfield, bringing her art history background and personal aesthetic preferences to bear on a project that required unprecedented creativity. Every garden path, flower bed, and decorative structure had to serve dual purposes that would never be apparent to visitors or photographers. The rose garden became the first major test of this approach. Traditional climbing roses were trained over trellises that concealed motion sensors and camera housings. The irrigation system included underground sensors that could detect footsteps or vehicle vibrations. Even the garden benches were specially designed to house communication equipment and emergency alert systems. "We're creating the most sophisticated garden in British history," Catherine commented to William one evening as they reviewed plans for the herb garden installation. If only people knew they were looking at military technology disguised as lavender bushes. The children remained blissfully unaware of the technical complexity surrounding them. They were simply delighted by the expanded play areas, new garden paths for bicycle riding, and the impressive collection of garden structures that provided perfect venues for hide-and-seek games. Prince George became particularly interested in the weather monitoring station, which appeared to be a traditional English garden feature, but actually housed atmospheric sensors for chemical detection. The perimeter security installation required the most sophisticated camouflage work. Traditional estate fencing was enhanced with sensors that could detect cutting, climbing, or tampering attempts. The fence posts contained fiber optic cables that would immediately alert security personnel to any interference. Gates were equipped with biometric readers disguised as decorative hardware. Underground, the sensor network was being connected and tested. Motion detectors were installed beneath gravel paths, pressure sensors underneath lawn areas, and acoustic monitors within garden structures. The technology could distinguish between children playing, adults walking, vehicles passing, and wildlife moving through the area. The most challenging technical installation involved the thermal imaging system. Cameras capable of detecting human body heat had to be positioned to cover the entire 150-acre area while remaining completely invisible. This required custom housing units designed to look like traditional English architectural features: dovecots, garden follies, and weather vanes. Catherine became particularly involved in designing the dovecots, which would actually house some of the most advanced surveillance equipment on the property. She studied historic examples from other royal estates and worked with craftsmen who specialized in traditional construction techniques. The finished structures were beautiful, historically appropriate, and packed with cutting-edge technology. The command center integration was equally complex. Underground cables connected every sensor, camera, and communication device to the hidden control room beneath the garden shed. The operators could monitor the entire property from multiple angles simultaneously, track movement patterns, and respond to potential threats within seconds. William spent considerable time learning to operate the command center systems. As a former military pilot, he understood the importance of knowing his equipment and being able to function independently if necessary. The learning curve was steep, but he found the technology fascinating and the capabilities reassuring. The financial costs continued to escalate as additional security features were deemed necessary. The original £15 million estimate had grown to nearly £25 million by May, not including ongoing operational expenses. However, regular security briefings continued to reinforce the necessity of such comprehensive protection. Local curiosity about the extensive work was managed through carefully crafted public statements emphasizing environmental improvement and heritage conservation. Media inquiries were deflected with explanations about Crown Estate property management and routine maintenance of historic landscapes. Most observers assumed the work was related to general upkeep of the Windsor estate. The children's adjustment to their evolving environment became a priority for both parents. Child psychologist Dr. Margaret Andrews was brought in to assess the potential impact of living within such an extensive security installation. Her recommendations influenced many design decisions, particularly regarding sightlines, play areas, and the general aesthetic of security features. Children need to feel safe without feeling imprisoned, Dr. Andrews explained during one consultation. The goal is security that enhances their sense of home rather than creating anxiety about external threats. This philosophy guided the integration of security features with child-friendly spaces. The playground equipment was positioned to provide natural surveillance of play areas without creating the impression of constant observation. Garden paths were designed to encourage exploration while ensuring that children never wandered beyond safe zones. The stables presented unique challenges, as the family's horses required secure facilities that could accommodate both routine care and emergency evacuation if necessary. The stable complex was expanded and enhanced with both traditional equestrian features and hidden security capabilities. Catherine's morning rides became test runs for the perimeter monitoring systems. The technology had to distinguish between authorized equestrian activity and potential security threats, while accounting for the unpredictable movement patterns of horses and riders. This required sophisticated programming and extensive field testing. The integration of wildlife management with security monitoring proved more complex than anyone anticipated. Windsor Great Park was home to deer, foxes, badgers, and numerous bird species that could trigger motion sensors and complicate thermal imaging. The system had to learn to distinguish between wildlife activity and human intrusion. Environmental considerations were paramount throughout the installation. All work had to comply with strict heritage and conservation requirements for the Windsor area. Archaeological surveys were required before any excavation, and environmental impact assessments guided the selection of materials and construction methods. The spring weather continued to impact the schedule, but it also provided opportunities for natural camouflage. Newly planted hedgerows and garden installations appear to be seasonal landscaping improvements rather than permanent security features. The timing helped minimize local attention to the scope of work being completed. By late May, the integrated systems were beginning to function as a coordinated whole. The command center operators could track movement throughout the property, communicate with external security services, and respond to various threat scenarios. The technology was sophisticated enough to distinguish between family members, staff, visitors, and potential intruders based on movement patterns and biometric data. Training exercises became a regular part of family life, though they were presented to the children as safety drills similar to fire safety practices at school. The family practiced various evacuation routes, emergency communication procedures, and safe room protocols without creating anxiety about specific threats. William and Catherine found themselves impressed by the aesthetic results of the security installation. Their property had genuinely been improved as a family residence while becoming one of the most secure private installations in Europe. The gardens were more beautiful, the landscape more interesting, and the overall environment more pleasant than before the work began. However, they were also beginning to understand the long-term implications of living within such extensive security measures. Every aspect of their daily routine was now monitored, recorded, and analyzed. Privacy had been traded for protection in ways they were still discovering. The psychological adjustment for the entire family was ongoing. They were safer than ever before, but they were also living within an invisible fortress that would forever change their relationship with the outside world. The challenge now was learning to live normally within extraordinary security measures that no one outside their immediate circle would ever fully comprehend. June 2024 marked the activation of the most sophisticated private security system ever installed for the British royal family. After months of construction, testing, and integration, Operation Sanctuary was becoming fully operational. For William and Catherine, this meant learning to live within an invisible technological cocoon that promised unprecedented protection while demanding significant adjustments to their daily routines. The first live test of the integrated systems occurred on a quiet Tuesday morning when Catherine was gardening near the herb beds. Unknown to her, the thermal imaging systems were tracking her movements, motion sensors were distinguishing her activity from background wildlife, and acoustic monitors were analyzing environmental sounds around her location. In the underground command center, operators were verifying that every system correctly identified her as an authorized family member engaged in routine domestic activities. The sophistication of the technology was both impressive and slightly unsettling. The system could identify individual family members by their walking patterns, distinguish between the children based on height and movement characteristics, and even recognize their voices from considerable distances. Privacy within their own home had acquired new dimensions that none of them had previously considered. William found himself particularly fascinated by the command center operations during his evening briefings with security personnel. Multiple screens displayed real-time feeds from throughout the property, while computer systems analyzed patterns, flag anomalies, and maintained constant communication with external security services. The level of information available was far beyond anything he had experienced during his military service. The children's adaptation to their enhanced environment continued to evolve. Prince George had developed a keen interest in the weather monitoring station and frequently asked technical questions about atmospheric measurements and data collection. Princess Charlotte enjoyed the expanded garden areas and the new hiding places created by various landscape installations. Prince Louis simply appreciated having more space for outdoor adventures. Catherine worked with Dr. Andrews to ensure that the security enhancements didn't create anxiety or feelings of confinement for the children. Regular conversations about safety, both at home and in public, became natural parts of family discussions. The goal was helping them understand appropriate caution without developing fears about their environment or circumstances. The financial investment in Operation Sanctuary had reached £32 million by June, but ongoing cost analysis suggested that the enhanced security would actually reduce long-term expenses by minimizing the need for external protection during family activities. The efficiency of the integrated systems meant fewer security personnel were required for routine daily operations. Local wildlife had begun adapting to the new landscape features, which validated the environmental integration aspects of the project. Deer continued their regular movement patterns through designated areas. Birds nested in structures that housed sophisticated electronics, and the overall ecosystem remained largely undisturbed despite the extensive technological installation. The first major test of the security systems occurred during a family barbecue in late June. Extended family members, close friends, and their children joined William and Catherine for an outdoor celebration that required temporary adjustments to several monitoring protocols. The system had to accommodate multiple adults and children moving throughout the property while maintaining full surveillance capabilities. The event demonstrated both the flexibility and the complexity of the security installation. Authorized guests were pre-programmed into the recognition systems, but their unpredictable movement patterns required manual monitoring adjustments. Children playing games triggered numerous sensors, and the acoustic monitoring had to filter a party conversation from potential security communications. Catherine particularly appreciated how seamlessly the technology integrated with normal entertaining. Guests had no awareness of the extensive monitoring surrounding them, and the garden areas provided beautiful venues for outdoor dining and children's activities. The security features enhanced rather than restricted their ability to host family and friends. The media management aspects of living within such extensive security became increasingly important as the summer progressed. Telephoto lenses capable of capturing detailed photographs from considerable distances meant that every outdoor activity required careful consideration of sight lines and exposure opportunities. The landscape design had anticipated this challenge by creating natural visual barriers that appeared to be aesthetic features while actually preventing unwanted photography of family activities. Strategic tree placement, decorative fencing, and garden structures all contributed to privacy protection that looked entirely natural. William's royal duties required regular departures from a secure environment, which involved complex coordination between the property systems and his external protection detail. Vehicle movements were tracked from the moment they entered the extended security zone until they departed, ensuring seamless integration between different levels of protective services. The children's school activities presented ongoing logistical challenges. Drop-off and pickup routines required temporary security adjustments, and school events involving multiple families had to be carefully planned to accommodate the enhanced protection requirements without disrupting normal educational and social activities. Catherine's public engagements involved similar considerations. Her departure and return procedures were integrated into the overall security protocols, and emergency communication systems ensured constant connectivity regardless of her location. The technology allowed for more flexible scheduling while maintaining comprehensive protection. The psychological impact of living within such extensive security measures varied among family members. William found the comprehensive protection reassuring given his understanding of contemporary threats. Catherine appreciated the enhanced privacy for family activities. The children remained largely unaware of the technical sophistication surrounding them. Staff members working at Adelaide Cottage required additional security clearances and training to function within the enhanced environment. Housekeeping personnel, gardening staff, and childcare providers all needed to understand basic protocols without necessarily knowing the full scope of the security installation. The integration with broader royal protection services required ongoing coordination and communication. The Adelaide Cottage systems had to interface seamlessly with security arrangements for other royal residences, public venues, and transportation assets. This created a comprehensive protection network unprecedented in royal security history. Emergency response protocols were tested monthly through exercises that appeared to family and staff as routine safety drills. These exercises validated communication systems, evacuation procedures, and coordination with external emergency services while maintaining operational security about the specific capabilities installed at the property. The summer months also brought the first significant system upgrade requirements. Technology improvements, threat assessment updates, and operational experience all contributed to refinements in equipment and procedures. The security installation was designed to evolve continuously rather than remain static after initial completion. International security services began expressing interest in the Adelaide Cottage installation as a model for protecting prominent families in democratic societies. The balance achieved between comprehensive protection and normal family life represented a significant advancement in residential security design and implementation. By the end of June, Operation Sanctuary had achieved its primary objectives. The royal family was living within one of the most secure private residences in the world while maintaining the appearance and atmosphere of a traditional English country home. The technology worked seamlessly, the landscape integration was successful, and family life continued with minimal disruption. However, the long-term implications of living within such comprehensive security were still emerging. Every aspect of their daily routine was now documented, analyzed, and monitored. Privacy had been redefined, and spontaneity required new considerations that previous generations of royals had never contemplated. The success of Operation Sanctuary represented both a triumph of modern security technology and a sobering reminder of the contemporary challenges facing prominent public families. The invisible shield protecting Adelaide Cottage was working exactly as designed, but it had also fundamentally changed what it meant to live as members of the British royal family in the 21st century. By August 2024, Operation Sanctuary had become the new reality for the Wales family. What had begun as an emergency security enhancement had evolved into a comprehensive lifestyle transformation that would influence every aspect of their future lives. The invisible fortress surrounding Adelaide Cottage was now fully operational, and the family was learning to navigate the complex balance between unprecedented protection and maintaining some semblance of normal family life. The system's effectiveness was proven during the first serious security incident in late July. Thermal imaging sensors detected unauthorized personnel approaching the property boundary at 2:47 a.m. on a Wednesday night. The individuals were tracked automatically as they moved through the outer perimeter zone, with acoustic sensors providing additional information about their number, equipment, and apparent intentions. Within 90 seconds of initial detection, the command center had alerted local police, activated enhanced surveillance modes, and quietly notified William and Catherine through bedside communication devices. The intruders never made it past the secondary perimeter sensors before being intercepted by responding officers, but the incident validated every aspect of the security installation. The family slept through the entire event, which was exactly what the system had been designed to achieve. Threats were neutralized before they could create anxiety or disruption for the children. The technology worked precisely as intended, providing protection that was both comprehensive and invisible to those being protected. Catherine later reviewed recordings from the incident and found herself impressed by both the sophistication of the surveillance and the restraint shown by security personnel. The response was measured, appropriate, and effective without being dramatically visible or disruptive. The balance achieved between protection and privacy exceeded her expectations. The incident also demonstrated the integration between the Adelaide cottage systems and broader law enforcement networks. Information sharing, response coordination, and follow-up investigations all proceeded seamlessly through established protocols that had been tested during exercises but never previously used in an actual security event. William participated in the post-incident analysis and was struck by the amount of information the system had gathered about the intruders before they were even aware of being detected. Movement patterns, equipment analysis, and behavioral assessment provided insights that would have been impossible with traditional security approaches. The children's summer holiday routine required significant planning to accommodate their enhanced security environment while ensuring normal childhood experiences. Family trips to local attractions, visits with friends, and outdoor adventures all needed careful coordination between the property systems and external protection arrangements. Beach holidays presented particular challenges, as the family's traditional summer vacation required temporarily leaving their secure environment for extended periods. Alternative arrangements involved securing suitable accommodations, installing temporary monitoring capabilities, and coordinating with local authorities in ways that wouldn't attract public attention. Catherine found herself appreciating the privacy that the security installation provided for family activities at home. The garden areas allowed for entertaining friends and relatives without concerns about unwanted photography or surveillance from outside parties. Birthday parties, family gatherings, and casual social events could proceed naturally without external security considerations. The children's friends adapted easily to visiting Adelaide Cottage, largely because they were unaware of the sophisticated protection surrounding them. Play dates, sleepovers, and casual visits proceeded normally, with parents commenting positively on the beautiful gardens and pleasant atmosphere without realizing they were experiencing one of the most secure private residences in Europe. Staff training became an ongoing priority as the operational requirements of the security installation became better understood. Gardening personnel needed to coordinate their activities with surveillance schedules. Housekeeping staff required updated access protocols, and childcare providers learned emergency procedures that had become significantly more complex. The financial management of Operation Sanctuary required establishing new budgeting categories and oversight procedures. Operational costs included electricity for surveillance equipment, maintenance of sophisticated electronics, and staffing for the command center. These expenses were integrated into existing royal household budgets through careful financial planning. Technology updates and system improvements became regular features of life at Adelaide Cottage. Software upgrades, equipment replacements, and capability enhancements ensure that the security installation remained current with evolving threats and advancing technology. The system was designed to grow and adapt rather than remain static. International interest in the Adelaide Cottage installation continued to grow throughout the summer. Security professionals from allied nations requested briefings on the integration techniques, technology applications, and operational procedures developed for the project. The installation was becoming a reference model for protecting prominent families in democratic societies. Catherine's public engagements benefited from the enhanced security infrastructure in unexpected ways. Communication systems allowed for better coordination with event organizers. Real-time threat assessment capabilities improved advanced planning, and the overall confidence gained from comprehensive home protection reduced anxiety about public appearances. The children's education continued to adapt to their security environment. Tutoring sessions could be conducted at home with additional privacy and safety. Field trips required enhanced coordination, but were still possible, and the garden areas provided excellent venues for outdoor learning activities and scientific observations. William's military background proved invaluable in understanding and optimizing the security systems. His experience with complex technology, threat assessment, and operational planning helped him work effectively with security personnel and contribute meaningfully to ongoing improvements in procedures and capabilities. The seasonal changes brought new challenges and opportunities for the security installation. Autumn foliage affected sight lines and camouflage requirements, while shorter daylight hours demanded enhanced lighting systems that remained invisible to casual observers. The technology adapted automatically to environmental changes while maintaining comprehensive coverage. Family traditions required creative adaptation to the security environment. Halloween activities, Christmas preparations, and Easter celebrations all needed to accommodate enhanced protection measures while maintaining the special atmosphere that made these occasions meaningful for the children. The psychological adjustment to living within comprehensive security continued to evolve for all family members. William and Catherine found themselves more relaxed about outdoor activities and public appearances, knowing they had a secure refuge to return to each evening. The children seemed largely unaffected by changes they couldn't perceive. Media management remained a constant consideration, as public interest in royal family activities required balancing transparency with security requirements. Official photographs and public statements had to be carefully managed to avoid revealing details about security capabilities while maintaining appropriate public engagement. The success of Operation Sanctuary began influencing security planning for other royal residences and official venues. Lessons learned at Adelaide Cottage were being applied to enhance protection for extended family members and high-profile events throughout the royal calendar. By the end of 2024, the Adelaide Cottage security installation had exceeded all expectations for effectiveness, discretion, and integration with normal family life. The £35 million investment had created a residential security model that balanced comprehensive protection with aesthetic beauty and functional family living. The long-term implications of Operation Sanctuary extended far beyond the immediate family. Future generations of royals would benefit from enhanced security technologies, improved threat assessment capabilities, and operational procedures that had been proven effective in real-world applications. Living behind the invisible wall had become natural for the Wales family. They were safer than any previous generation of royals, while maintaining more privacy and domestic normalcy than many of their predecessors had enjoyed. The technology served them seamlessly, protecting without imprisoning and securing without isolating. The transformation of 150 acres of English countryside into a state-of-the-art security installation while maintaining its traditional beauty and functionality represented a remarkable achievement in both technology and design. Operation Sanctuary had succeeded in creating something unprecedented, a royal residence that provided military-grade protection while feeling like home. As William looked out over the peaceful gardens each evening, he knew they had achieved something extraordinary. Their children could grow up safely, Catherine could pursue her interests freely, and they could face their royal duties with confidence, all because of an invisible shield that protected them from threats they hoped would never materialize, but knew they needed to be prepared for in the modern world.